Well, good afternoon. Long time no here, and today we actually have two audiences watching. The one group for the first time, and one group that's been kind of with us for a while. And on today, my story with narcissistic abuse and Brother Mark, Turner syndrome, butterflies in life. I'm working with my car's in the shop, so I've got a kind of jury rigged a clip, so I'm not sure if it's going to hold or not. So I just want to get that out of the way. So we will do the best we can, and I've got somebody anxious to get into my spot at Walmart. So let me just get that out of the way. All right. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell my story about my recovery with narcissistic abuse. And then at the same time, though, so we have two audiences. We have people from the Turner syndrome community, and then we also have the people that I've met up with in the recovery community for those who have been recovering from narcissistic abuse. So to try to get everybody to get to know everybody, I'll tell you a little. I'll give you kind of a brief rundown of what each is. And then after that, I will go ahead and then I'll tell my story dealing with narcissistic abuse and my experience in recovery, what it's been, what happened, how I got to realization of it, and then what it's today now. So excuse me. And I'm gonna just forgive me though for this to be a little off center, but. As I say, we're kind of working the best we can with what we've got. First off, for those who are wondering what is Turner syndrome, I'm going to give you just kind of a real quick rundown. It's not going to be a thorough answer. You can always look up Turner syndrome on Google. There are great organizations like the Turner Syndrome Society of the U.S. There is also the Turner Syndrome Foundation. There is Turner Syndrome Global Alliance. And then there's also a Christian group called Leaping Butterfly Ministry. And then they can definitely go ahead and give you stories of what in more detail. In short, Turner syndrome is a chromosomal disorder that affects only women. Men have an X and Y chromosome, sex chromosome. Women have two X chromosome. For some reason that we're not academically sure of, the women with Turner syndrome are either missing a whole X or a partial X chromosome, and that can kind of create a whole series of challenges. Most notable would be in the area of stature, the ability to go through puberty without the help of hormone replacement therapy, the ability to have children, other symptoms that I'm really familiar with. Sometimes the heart there can sometimes be defective heart issues, and what's known as defective aortic valve. That can sometimes cut down women in the prime of their life. But the one area that really fascinated me in how to get involved with Turner syndrome was the area of learning disabilities, non-learning disabilities, and then sometimes how social anxiety and depression play out. And so that's kind of a rundown of Turner syndrome. What is narcissistic abuse? Again, I'm just going to give you just some quick rundowns of what it is, and then I'm going to go ahead and then tell my story. Narcissistic abuse is a type of bullying where the bullies will tend to hide, or will tend to disarm the victim. Will try to challenge people's perceptions, wondering if they're thinking of something right. Even though, and then the narcissists, by their own nature, are just either unable or unwilling to look at the reality of what's really going on and how it's affecting others. are all butterflies, as women like to call, with Turner syndrome, like to call themselves? Are they all narcissists? No, definitely not. Just as much as not all women have heart issues, not all women have learning disabilities. I mean, obviously, each butterfly is unique and different, and then they have their own sets of challenges. I would say, though, that I really had a discussion on this last night in the narcissistic abuse community, and sometimes I'm wondering if it's the combination of this is a speculation at best. This is just an offhand observation. It's not backed up by any academic. This is just one man's opinion. So I mean, so as I say, take what you like, leave the rest. But some people with learning disabilities do sometimes have a bad self-concept about themselves. They do have a lot of shame, and invariably there's a lot of baggage that kind of goes with it. So sometimes the shame, the abuse components, they can kind of play in, and a lot of the I think the one thing that I have heard is a lot of people that do the bullying are very insecure and hurting, and I've seen that. So for those who are in the narcissistic abuse recovery community, now you've kind of got a basic rundown of Turner syndrome. For those who are in the Turner syndrome community, who just want a kind of a basic idea of what narcissistic abuse is and how this type of bullying is playing out and how it's causing harm, then you can go ahead and do your own research. Just a Facebook search will give you just a whole slew of very helpful resources for you to check on your own, and then you can kind of do your own inventory and your own spot checks, and you can kind of go, yeah. I mean, some people are honestly going to think that my information is about as reliable as an infomercial at 2:00 in the morning at some UHF station. And some people are going to look at me like I'm some type of snake oil salesman. Okay, I can't change their perception. Others are may have trouble getting themselves wrapped around it. I can buy this. I don't know, Mark. I just can't see it. Give me a moment. I just got a police paramedics that we need to get out of the way. All right, that's taken care of. And so sometimes they can't see it. What also plays in the Turner syndrome community. Give me a moment. I'm just gonna pull over and see if I can get it straightened out. Yeah, my good clip is in the shop, so give me just a moment, and we're gonna go ahead and fix this. Actually, I think what I'll do for a moment is we'll just go ahead and pull over for a moment, and I'll talk. All right, let's see. Let me get myself in the shade, and we'll talk. All right, that's better. Now let's see if that's going to hold. Yeah. Nope. Well, tell you what, we're going to do this the old-fashioned way, and we will just do handheld. So, as you can tell, I am parked, and we'll just go ahead and we'll just have a chit chat that way. I'll be glad to get my car back in a couple of weeks. But in the meantime, the other thing I wanted to add before I go ahead and start sharing my story is there in the Turner syndrome community, there are some women who have what's called nonverbal learning disabilities. And sometimes, and I may have it too. I've never been officially diagnosed, but sometimes I wonder. And sometimes there's a tendency with anybody with NVLD to kind of read into stuff that's simply not there. If you know the story of a story of Chicken Little and the sky falling when it was really nothing but just an acorn. You could see how Chicken Little just kind of overreacted and created in that fable created a real crisis. And then also a lot of women, not all, will sometimes have social anxiety, and that just makes the fear even worse. So in any case, let me go ahead and tell you my story for the benefit of both communities. And I want to apologize that I haven't had something little better organized. I'm in an essential industry. With COVID-19, we've been all hands on deck, so it's been a lot of mandatory overtime. So this is going to be very much on the fly, and I just want to apologize for the lack of organization. But now let me just go ahead and tell my story. My name's Mark, and I'm a survivor from narcissistic abuse. And the first question I might ask is, how did I get involved in the Turner syndrome community? Now, for the purpose of the story, I'm going to use fictitious names and situations, obviously, but it will still give you a kind of good idea. But anyway, I got a chance to know a woman by the name of Judy, who has Turner syndrome, and through a curious set of circumstances at church, our lives were kind of thrown together. So my wife and I decided, okay, well, all right, let's just go ahead and befriend her and just see what she's like, and then see if we can learn what Turner syndrome is. And at first it was really valuable friendship. I learned a lot about the condition, and I heard just her testimony and advocating for the struggles that she had. What really intrigued me was how her struggles with learning disabilities were very similar to mine, and that just definitely intrigued me. It's just like we could kind of put our stories kind of just parallel side by side, and it's like I really had a curious feeling of deja vu. And wait a minute, why is somebody playing my song? So that just kind of led me to do some more research, and then also to really study extensively and to do some academic reading on Turner syndrome, and then also on the learning disabilities challenges, and that's where it was offered my greatest amount of support. Friendship went along great until there was one time that I made the mistake that one thing about Turner syndrome women, not all, is they like structure. They have problems with surprises. And I didn't know that. Since we were chummy, we were both happened to be going to the same city for similar events, and I was going out for a Turner syndrome charity walk, and then also I was catching one of my favorite baseball teams, and so I was flying up to the same city at the same time. Needless to say, that majorly backfired, and it just kind of left her with it. Really created some major anxiety for her, and kind of left her with the feeling that she was being stalked. In that particular situation, Judy realized there was a misunderstanding. She asked for forgiveness, and then I thought that was the end of it. One thing that she did have, that she always had problems with. She always had problems with my advocating for Turner syndrome, wanting to be being part of the community, and I think that she kind of perceived that as that her personal space was being majorly invaded. So, and as it turned out, our friendship just kind of came to an end. I had left the church, and then she was dealing with some issues of her own, so I just kind of wished her well. And that friendship was pretty much over by the summer 2016. However, I did continue to reach out to other women with Turner syndrome to learn about the condition, and then I just found that I was able to be supportive. I was able to give encouragement and give some impart some wisdom and talked about things like boundaries, self-care, detachment, and some of the experiences I had with learning disabilities, and that itself was very well received. In the fall of 2017, I got a really strange text message from Judy, and I mean, it was just the first time. It was just really incoherent. It was all over the place, and she was accusing me of molesting children, that I would stalk her, and I mean, she just really kind of got stuck in that. And at that point, I said, let's talk about it. And her mother, Juliana, it just blew up me and stepped in. That was the end of the friendship. So it just kind of went, oh, okay, well, whatever. And so I just continued to advocate for Turner syndrome. I continued to develop friendships, and there was a really impromptu network of friends that I really enjoyed. I was able to go to Turner syndrome charity walks, and then I was blessed to being able to go to a conference, and I was able to learn about learning disabilities and how that plays out. So it was a real education. In the fall of 2018, we had lost a sister to aortic dissection. It's very common, and I had such a good rapport with the women that they knew that if there's any struggle, they could come to me anytime, day or night. And I had gotten one TS woman I referred to as a sister said, I think that a certain person is going to be passing away. Can you be there? I said, absolutely, sure. I'd be happy to. And as luck would have it, it happened right in December, and God's timing was just absolutely impressive at that point, because we actually had a company Christmas party, and we were allowed 3 hours off the phones. So they're working a call center, and then I alerted my supervisor. She said, "Don't worry, you just take the time to be with a friend. Just be back by 1:30." Super, thank you. And so there's a lot of time of fellowship and mourning and support, and people were just really encouraged. They said, "Mark, thanks for reaching out. You're a great brother. We love you, and we just really appreciate your support." By contrast, though, my wife got viciously attacked by Juliana on Facebook, and the timbre language is you could take your advocacy and blankety blank and then fill in. She didn't say that, but certainly the timbre of the message was what we could do with our advocacy. So at that point, I was planning to go to a national conference of the Turner Syndrome Society U.S. in Nashville in the summer 2019. And then I also have a very good system of accountability with other women. I have very good boundaries, and I also, being in a church, I also have very good accountability with the men. And I met with them and the pastor, and they were fine, encouraging me with my support. Well, Judy had found out I was going to the conference, and aptly freaked out, and Juliana sent me a message. How dare you go to the conference? You have no reason to be with these women. And she said, I can really make things messy for you. And sure enough, she did. And that started off a major smear campaign and gossip campaign and slander that I was a pedophile, that I'm a stalker. And then the funny thing, though, is true to narcissistic abuse, the narcissist will usually get what they're called flying monkeys. They'll get people to do their dirty work, and then they'll be behind the scenes, just completely, just kind of working things behind the scenes. Have you ever seen The Wizard of Oz and see how the Wicked Witch Witch of the West, which is Flying Monkeys, or even how the Wizard of Oz tried to do things behind smokes and mirrors and echo chambers. If you've ever watched the movie, the same thing. The one thing I can definitely know is though when Toto in that movie really exposed the wizard for what he is by just yanking behind the curtains, and well, is to say he got caught, but he also managed to slither away in a balloon too. So true to narcissistic form. And so we were just, my wife and I were just, and any friends of mine were just getting unrelentlessly cyberbullied, and then all of a sudden, people I was friends with, all of a sudden I was mortal enemies, overnight. Being a Christian in an evangelical setting, I went there. We believe that slander is a very serious sin. It can hurt people. It can hurt people's reputation, and as such, that's usually grounds for some very serious church discipline. Well, as it turned out, the church they were working for went ahead and covered up the abuse. The Turner Syndrome Society has also had sort of the same attitude. There have been people who contacted the Turner Syndrome Society about all this bullying, and it's been crickets. There was just we were just getting tons of, and sure enough, I learned how to get caught up in the bullying and how they could learn to push my buttons. And then they could twist things around, and even though I could show evidence, they would just put their fingers in their ears and say that it just simply didn't exist. So, and it's one of the ringleaders actually attacked a woman who had a 2-year-old daughter in Ireland, and she went ahead, and I gave her information, and she contacted the Turner Syndrome Society and said, hey, what's going on? And the response was absolute crickets. Now, another trick that narcissists will do is they'll create a lot of drama, making that say, for everybody, and they'll just turn on the victim, and with some really great sleights of hand, they can make themselves look real sweet and innocent. And it really took me a while to kind of see how Judy was kind of playing that game, even though the reality is, he stalked me, he followed me to Central City on the plane. Well, even though the reality is that there were reconciliation letters that were exchanged back and forth between Judy and then Juliana, the mom, and also the church at the time was also very much pulled in to the situation they were made, where we didn't have a pastor at the time, but the interim leadership said, "Thank you, Mark. Don't worry about it. Thank you for bringing it to our attention." So that issue was resolved within 3 weeks. But somehow they want to go ahead and use that. They're really good. They're really good about screaming and attacking, and obviously with narcissists you can't reason with them. So finally though, part of me wanted to go ahead and try to detach from them. But they wouldn't stop, and they pushed really pushed everything. They crossed over to cyber stalking, telecommunications harassment. Was getting death threats, and then finally had to get some legal and law enforcement assistance. And so far at the moment, I think things are, we hope, knocking for Micah, fairly quiet. So, but that's kind of what it's like up to today. Today, I still advocate for Turner Syndrome. I still support. There's still some Turner Syndrome organizations that I believe in. I send them small contributions. There are a couple of YouTube videos that I follow, faithfully. I've also spoken out on the narcissism one of these YouTube videos though have actually been highly watched. The one called "Liar Liar's Butterfly Wings on Fire," shows just the absolute absurdity of the accusations, and then that, and also. So people have to learn that that there are consequences. Today I know that there are some members of the transgender community that just by nature of the condition, it's real strange. They can't handle the drama, and yet they get involved in the drama. So I have to respect the people who just they don't understand it, or they'd rather just stay out of it. And I respect their boundaries, and I've got some great friendships, and the friendship we're contingent on. Mark, just don't post in the drama, and if you want, and then we can be friends. And so, sure, that's fine. We've had some friendships destroyed because the bullies would try to run interference. I think now though they're kind of a little hip to the game. I think they're kind of going, I don't think so, and so I don't know. I would hope they've gotten bored. I think the last thing though too is, and I can really relate to this one. I know some of the people who are doing some of the most bullying also have the greatest amount of hurt. Nah, no, I'm a codependent, so I can't rescue. I really can't comment. I really can't do anything. I can pray, of course, but boy, some of them I can really see when the depression and the anxiety and it just kind of hits them like a ton of bricks. And in some respects, I am acutely aware. I'm guilty of myself that hurt people. Hurt people. So in conclusion, what does the future hold? I haven't a clue right now with COVID and things being at work. Just kind of my advocacy is kind of very much on the back burner. I kind of contribute where I can, and somebody has a question, certainly I'm happy to ask. But I haven't, because of all the drama, I've had to really take a back seat. Has it affected me? Oh yeah, I've had mass amounts of anxiety, and yes, it does interfere with my work, and it interferes with my ability to think straight. And yes, I certainly have had a lot of psychosomatic illnesses and depression, and hasn't really helped my diabetes at all. So it's taken a physical and a psychological toll as well. I am thankful. I do want to thank everybody who has shared posts and have shared education material on narcissistic abuse, and now I realize I didn't get off a spaceship from Mars. Not that I really felt that I did. So today, I think today it's a win-win, because I can still advocate for Turner syndrome, and if the other people don't like it, that's their problem. And at the same time, I could at least give some butterflies saying, hey, if you want to know how the drama, the bullying is working, this is how it is, and if this is something you want to pursue, go ahead and check it out. And at the same time, I'm really passionate about making sure that people learn, have a working knowledge of Turner syndrome. So at the same time, I can, advocate in the narcissistic abuse community, and just, kind of educate that way with my hopes that it's a win-win. So that's my story, and I pass.